Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and the title is What Were They Thinking? So today's podcast is how to get along with other people. And good Lord, don't we all need that, me included, and me especially. So a story came up actually just this morning that I thought would make for a good podcast. Let's see if I'm right. But a member was telling me before I was training a client, they came over and just wanted me to know. They said, "Hey, to let you know, I had a little bit of an argument with a guy over the weekend. He wasn't putting equipment away. I kind of pointed it out to him. We got in a little bit of a kind of disagreement over it. But I just wanted you to know that way, in case he mentions it, you're prepared." So I told him, thank you for helping to protect the gym. I appreciated his help in the sense of trying to keep the gym the great quality that it is. So I tell my members all the time is I'm trying my best, but I can't see everything. I can't be here for everything. So I support when the members want to correct other members in the sense of more like so encouraging to maintain the quality of the gym. So making sure things are put back correctly, making sure things are wiped off, equipment isn't abused, and kind of like self-policing within the membership. And of course, if anybody kind of, does it overly aggressive or starts kind of taking too much of a role of that, I will kind of curb that and fix it over the time. But in general, I appreciate when members say something rather than not saying it and not wanting to be a quote-unquote tattletale. So I tell them all the time, I was like, if you don't tell me, this shit doesn't get fixed, and then we all lose the gym. So I consider myself a manager of the gym, not an owner, in the sense that I own the responsibility of managing the gym, but it's our gym, O-U-R, not my gym, our gym. So when I view it that way, the reason why I do is because everything I do is to make sure that this gym is available for other people, and other people, like their membership pays for the gym. So I wouldn't have this gym if it wasn't for them. So it's definitely a shared, I don't even know what the word would be. It's a shared thing between all of us. So I appreciate when they help make sure it stays great. So this person, I figured they told me, and I wanted to see kind of like what was the situation of it. So I actually went through and looked on the camera and looked through the film and saw the morning that he had been talking about. It was a couple days before he mentioned it to me today. And so I looked over the camera, and it was funny in the sense of what happened. So the first person was in the gym. They were actually by themselves. It was really early Sunday morning. And they were doing a circuit of 3 exercises. The 3 exercises happened to be pretty much across the gym. So they were doing like a lat pull down exercise, a barbell bench press, and then dumbbell flies. So kind of like chest and back, good upper body training kind of workout, kind of all inclusive. And then they were doing the flies to pre-exhaust their bench. This is all me just guessing what they were doing. But it was a pretty good circuit. It made sense. And the repetitions they were using, the weight they were using, all seemed correct. Well, since they were by themselves, even though the machines, like 3 of the machines were busy, and even though it was all the way across the gym, like meaning like it took over a lot of space, there was no one else there. So what did it matter, right? So that's totally fine. That person was doing a totally good job. The second person who warned me of the event, they had come into the gym, didn't really greet the other person. They just kind of came in with their headphones. The other person had their headphones on. So the second person walked in, and they happened to walk over to the back area first, while the first person was over doing the dumbbell exercises, which are different areas of our gym. So they walked over. They saw that there were weights on the lat pull-down machine. So they figured, what the hell, somebody must have left those here. So I'll just get a couple sets in while it's already loaded, just kind of do it as my warm-up. So they just jumped right on the machine and started moving it around. Well, the first person looked over, saw them doing it, didn't say anything, just did their other 2 exercises, and kind of never really created a big fuss about it, which was actually kind of appropriate because they understood that, when the gym was empty, it was okay if they were using a lot of things. Now the gym got full, it would make sense that, why hog 3 pieces of equipment if somebody wants one of them? So he was doing the nice thing by letting that guy work in. That guy was doing what he thought was a nice thing by using the machine since it was already loaded, and then when he was done, he put the weights away. So he, in a sense, got to gill warm up and he got to clean up the gym. The first person did a nice thing by saying, hey, you know what, I could get in a little bit of a huffy-puffy mood about somebody just jumping in on a piece of equipment I was using, but, it's not fair for me to be using 3 pieces of equipment. I'll go ahead and let them in and not say anything. So it's kind of funny that both of them, from their perspectives, were doing a nice thing. But the problem came when the person who came into the gym, mentioned to the first person, said, hey, let you know there was plates out on stuff. Make sure you put things away. And the first person, I don't really know what they said because I actually didn't have the sound turned on, but you could see them talking, so I'm assuming this was the conversation. They were talking a little bit. The first person probably said something along the lines of, well, I was actually using that piece of equipment, so I didn't just leave things out. And the first person, the other person probably said, yeah, sure, whatever. You don't want to admit that you're wrong, just put stuff away. First person's probably like, I wasn't wrong, blah, 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 blah. So they got in an argument. So what I thought was interesting about this was, who would be wrong in this situation? And who would be right? Given each of their perspectives, they each could see themselves as being right, and they each could see the other person as being wrong. Now, is there a fact of right and wrong? Yes. The second person should have came in and asked if the first person was using the machine or not. That was the mistake. So, oftentimes, there's kind of like, the arguments of, well, there's 2 sides to each story, so no one's really wrong. No, sometimes somebody's wrong, okay? You just don't know that until you know the middle story. Does that make sense? So you know the one person's story, you know the other person's story, but in life, we don't have recording that we can look back through and get an outsider's perspective. So by me watching the camera, I'm getting the third story. I'm getting the middle. I'm getting what truly happened. Often in life, we don't have that perspective available to us. We only have one person's view, the other person's view, and then we just tussle over who's right, who's wrong. And in those cases, you can sometimes come to the conclusion that we don't know who is right, we don't know who is wrong, so let's move on, that kind of thing. So there actually is a wrong here, but we wouldn't get to normally know that in life. So what I thought was neat about this is that in our lives, we often have disagreements with other people, or we're silently annoyed by other people, and we just don't bring it up. And very often, what I see as a gym owner, when watching cameras and getting to see retrospective views, is that for the most part, most people do things with the best of intentions in mind. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way that I expected. And sometimes we don't get to see what their thought process was. We only see it from our perspective, and it seems wrong to us. So another example is I came in yesterday, and there was a bucket sitting in the middle of our dumbbell section, like benches. And it looked like somebody just used the bucket for something and just left it there. But what had happened was, a day or two prior, there was a leak in the ceiling. So gotta love, the repair system here. And when you rent buildings, it's lovely, lovely, lovely. But there was a leak in the ceiling in that spot. So the person had put the bucket there when they were there to catch the rain. But the rain then stopped. The bucket dried up because it was probably a drop or 2 or 3 or 4, but it wasn't much. And then probably everybody else wasn't sure what the hell the bucket was there for. So when I walked in, the bucket was dry. I did know because I've been here and I've gotten to see the third point of view from time to time. And I looked up, saw that there was some water stain. That must have been wet. That must have been the reason. So I put the bucket away. But no one else put the bucket away. And probably because they had no freaking clue why it was there. So they wouldn't know to put it away or not put it away. They didn't know if I put it there. So therefore they wouldn't want to put it away if I was the one who put it there. So there's, without knowing the story, without knowing the context, there can be confusion. Okay? So that's what we want to look through, is when we experience moments of frustration with other people, can we look at their perspective? Can we ask ourselves, what were they thinking? A movie that I saw within the last year that I loved was called The Shack. And in a boiled down version, it basically comes down to and teaches the concept of treating other people as if they were loved ones. So rather than treating each other like strangers, treat each other like how you would treat a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, a best friend. So if we approach life treating others as if they're loved ones, how much of a difference would that truly make? Now, the hard part of that is, what happens when somebody does something stupid or does something that annoys us or something that hurts us? If they were a loved one, we would often ask them, what the hell were you thinking? We'd still have the hurt, we'd still have the confusion, we'd still have the pain, but we would ask. That would be our response to a loved one, is ask rather than accuse. We would seek to understand rather than to be understood, meaning we wanted to force on them, hey, this caused this, you're wrong. So rather than being understood on how we feel, we would seek to understand how they felt, how they thought. What were they thinking? Why did they do the thing they did? So, when you have disagreements, when you have struggles with other people, do you approach others in this way? Do you ask rather than accuse? Do you seek to understand rather than be understood? And in moments of confrontation, do you approach those moments in a loving correction rather than in being frustrated, mad, and accusatory and just telling everybody they're wrong, telling everybody they're dumbasses, all that stuff. And that's something that I've absolutely wrestled with in my personal life. And being a gym owner has highlighted the need for me to correct that. So if I walked around and everybody who left a single piece of equipment out of place, and if I just started screaming at everybody, holy hell, we wouldn't have a gym. So if I kicked everyone out who left equipment out of place, there would be no members. Now, people listening to this podcast immediately are going to say, well, I never leave anything out. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I know because I watch the cameras. Even our best people will accidentally leave things out of place from time to time. I have left 9 things out of place in 9 years. So I one time left our yoke outside, which is a 380-pound piece of equipment, because I was training a client. Somebody came and asked me something. I needed to help somebody with an injury issue that was unrelated to my client. And before I knew it, an hour and a half had gotten away from me. And I attended, and this is actually true, is I was sitting in my office. I looked up at the camera and said, oh, shit, I forgot that yoke. And then as immediately as I went to get up, I saw that there were 2 guys carrying it in, Jake and Logan. Okay, so thank you, Jake and Logan. They were carrying it in, and I was like, oh, crap, I forgot it. And then my forgetfulness created work for them, and that makes me feel bad. I don't like that. I hate whenever my laziness causes work in other people's lives. So that was an example of something that I forgot. I own this gym, and every damn day, all damn day, I put stuff away from other people. So I am well aware of how annoying that is. Therefore, I try not to ever do that. But even I make mistakes once a year. Okay? So every member in this gym, every single member has left something out of place at one point in time. So every single member would be kicked out if I didn't have some degree of forgiveness in the way that I approach that situation. Guess what? People give me forgiveness all the time. I've made mistakes. I'd have to kick my own self out, okay, because I left stuff out of place too. Sometimes I'm tired and I'm short with people, and I have to text them later and apologize. Oftentimes I don't get to people's emails in a week or 2 or a month. So, and I have to apologize, and sometimes I guarantee right now, actually, that there's people I'm completely unaware of that I am not responding to and I've forgotten about. And I send out a general apology right now. But people forgive me for things all of the time. Therefore, it just makes sense that I should forgive others as well. And I think we all can do this. Is if we all approach arguments, disagreements, in moments of kind of confusion, frustration, confrontation, if we approach those as if we're talking to a loved one, if we ask rather than accuse, if we seek to understand rather than to be understood, okay, rather than saying this is how I felt, if we first ask, how did you feel? Why did you do that? What were you thinking? That's going to give us a much, much, much happier life. Okay? Now, if it turns out that the other person was intentionally just being an asshole, so they intended to hurt you. If they're a loved one, find out why. Like, what do they want to hurt you for? What can you correct about that? What were they trying to get across? Maybe they've been trying to get your attention and they just couldn't. They got frustrated, they lashed out. But if this is a coworker or somebody, an acquaintance, somebody you don't really have a close connection with, and they intended to hurt you just because they wanted to hurt you, then protect yourself and avoid them. Cut them from your life as much as you possibly can. So not everybody needs to be in our life. So I can approach everyone like a loved one, but even loved ones I wouldn't let hurt me repeatedly over and over again. You would protect yourself, remove yourself from that situation, let them heal, and then step back into their life when they're ready for the love, when they're ready to give love, when they're ready to be loved. Too often, people have guilt over things like that. Like, oh, so-and-so's my mother. I can't, I can't just avoid them. So-and-so's my sister. I can't just avoid them. It doesn't matter relation. If somebody's hurting you over and over again, and if you've tried to help but they are not ready to receive your help, being a martyr and continuing to get hurt doesn't help them. It only hurts you. If they're not ready to be helped, don't offer help. Step away, protect yourself. Be there when they're ready. Pay attention to them. Keep a close eye on them. Send some prayers their way if you believe in that stuff. But don't continually let yourself be hurt over and over again. Don't hurt them back, but protect yourself and create some distance. Okay? But for the most part, most people we deal with every day, they're often nicer than we think. They often have a best of intention that sometimes we don't see and or didn't turn out the way that they expected. So maybe they tried their best and it was a mistake. We've made mistakes too, so we need to forgive them. Maybe they tried their best, we just don't see what they were trying it for. So we need to seek to understand. We need to ask. That's the best way to approach this. Then you can also help yourself. So if there's somebody who just constantly kind of does a thing that you've brought to their attention, but it just keeps coming up over and over again, and it's just part of who they are, okay? Sometimes you have to put some things in place to help yourself. So with the gym, we have the bars are stored upright. So barbells are big, long, 7-foot long, bars. Okay, just one long bar. And we store ours, instead of being horizontal, they're vertical. So they're 7 foot tall. They're on end, sticking 7 feet up in the air. And we have posts that will hold the bottom part to hold it up in the air. Well, since I was the one that was paying $300, $400, $500 per bar, when I would put the bar in the post, I would set it in the post. Well, then members who hadn't paid $300, $400, $500 per bar, they would tip the bar into the post and then just let go and let the bar drop into the post. And when you're the person who paid the money, the sound of that dropping is, holy shit, my money is being ruined. Okay? So I used to get really frustrated with people when they would just throw the bars into the bar holders. Another one is we have a deadlift jack, which is a kind of hand device that holds a barbell up so you can load plates onto it. Well, when people unload the bar, they just throw the jack. Or when the bar is loaded, they just throw it into place. So I had someone one time, they came to me and they said, hey, the bolt broke on the deadlift jack. And I said, yeah, because you're an asshole and you just threw the jack around. So they had a 500, 600 pounds on the bar, and they just dropped, dropped the jack in place rather than setting the jack in place. So they sheared a bolt because that's how inconsiderate they were being with the piece of equipment. So what did I do? I put 2 damn bolts in the thing because it's not necessary, but I didn't want the damn bolt being sheared again. So I asked them not to do that again, but then I also helped myself by putting in more reinforcement. So the bar holders, I cut up rags and shoved rags and pieces of rubber into the bottom of the holders. So that way when they dropped the bar, it would hit the rag and the rubber and it would still cushion the bar. I could not get every member of the gym to be more respectful towards our barbells. I could not get every member of the gym to be more respectful to our deadlift jack. Just like I can't get everybody in the gym to never leave a piece of equipment out of place. It's not going to happen. I've tried. And while I was trying, I lived angry, frustrated, and mad. I lived pissed off at everyone. But that wasn't the right approach. It left me miserable and them completely unaware. Didn't work. So instead, I helped myself. I put the rags in the holders. I put an extra bolt in the deadlift jack. You do things that help protect you against those type behaviors. You have an attitude of gratitude. So I was grateful for the members. Even though they're beating up the equipment, I was grateful that they were paying the membership, which allowed me to own this gym and for us all to get the benefit of the gym and for me to continue to serve my purpose on earth of helping others in health and fitness. And I recognized the ways in which the members forgave me for my flaws. When I was angry, when I was frustrated, when I was short-tempered. So I gave them what they had already given me. They had already given me forgiveness. They'd already invested into my dream of this gym. So I had to do the same for them. So rather than living angry, frustrated, pissed off, rather than ruining your life with the other person not even aware of it, and possibly expecting them to change something that can't be changed. So again, can I expect every person who ever steps foot in this gym to never leave a piece of equipment out of place? No, mistakes happen. Can you correct the ones that leave something out of place every time? Yeah, you can bring more awareness to it, but mistakes are still going to be made. So we need to learn to live with other people's flaws, just like they've learned to live with ours. So, when you have a disagreement with somebody, when you're having a hard time, if you're struggling with being frustrated towards others, treat everyone like a loved one. Ask them what they were thinking rather than accusing them of what they did. Seek to understand, then to be understood. Okay? Give forgiveness to others. Have an attitude of gratitude. All of these things help. They all help us live a happier life rather than a pissed off, frustrated one. Okay? So, hopefully, if this is something that you deal with, anger towards others, hopefully what we talked about in this podcast can give you some perspective. No one is perfect, not even you. So if you're angry at others because they make mistakes, you are going to live a miserable life because they will continue to make mistakes from time to time, just as you do as well. Okay? So treat everyone like they're a loved one. Ask them what they were thinking. Work with them in compassion to correct the issue. Okay? So, hopefully this helped. Hopefully it gave you some food for thought. I wish you the best. If you have any questions on this or if this is something you really struggle with and you just want to talk to somebody, email us, brutalirongym@gmail.com. Okay? We want you to live a happy life, a healthy life. And a huge component of that is being at peace with other people. So if you're struggling with that, try some of the stuff we talked about in this podcast and reach out to us if you need. Okay? We're happy to help. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.